Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Russ.
And I'm Jeanelle Slade. More snow, more bitter cold working its way into the region in brutal waves.
And many schools across the region closed to keep kids from hitting the streets. But come tomorrow, School District 2 says school parking lots and classrooms will fill up again.
Well, it's a tricky decision not made lightly by leaders of School District 2.
But at the district's highest priority, the safety of its students, a primary reason that those schools were closed today. However, as a little warmer temperatures are in the forecast, it's a good time to reopen them, according to School District 2 Superintendent Greg Upham. And while those classrooms were empty today, snow removal operations were still ongoing.
Another 5 to 9 inches of snow is expected through Friday, and this weekend will bring another round of bitter cold. Upham says the district weighs a few different things when making these tough decisions.
It's one thing to get through snow, it's another to get through the cold. And if the cold will give us a little bit of a break, and even if we have snow, and the city has done an outstanding job of plowing the streets and such, that's better for us. You know, if our buses can run and the temperatures will come up a little bit.
Upham says the district will continue to monitor the forecast for the next several days.
And student safety while driving to school is one of the reasons MSU Billings canceled classes today.
MSUB's university and city college campuses both closed today. Chancellor Dan Edelman says more than 4,000 of the school's 4,300 students live off campus, and some commute from outside Billings.
Edelman says it was also a concern if campuses could be cleared partly for disabled students. MSUB let the students know through Facebook, text, email, and the website around 8 o'clock this morning.
It was definitely heavy on my mind yesterday, but I wanted to make sure that I was pretty sure we were going to close it, but I wanted to wake up this morning early and take a look outside and drive around a little bit to see, hey, is it still bad out there? And I thought it was still challenging. There's no science to it and no formula. I just want people to be safe.
And the chancellor says classes will resume tomorrow.
Well, the severe storm that's dumped a record amount of snow and left sub-zero temperatures in its wake has pushed the governor to declare a state of energy emergency.
Governor Bullock issuing that declaration late yesterday. The order temporarily suspends hours of service regulations for drivers who deliver home heating fuels. Normally, commercial drivers are only allowed a maximum of 11 hours of driving during a 14-hour on-duty period. The declaration will make it easier for carriers to supply propane, heating oil, and diesel fuel to communities struggling with all the snow.
Now, the governor's order does require drivers to operate commercial vehicles in a safe manner and that they follow the hours of service regulations if a driver needs immediate rest.
All right, turning to Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire. Bob, was a little warmer out there today, and we did get a break from the snow, but you said we've got another heavy dose coming.
Yeah, the snow is on its way, and let me show it to you. It's on the Doppler radar right now. You can see it's moving into south central Montana, just to the north of Billings. Some of it just starting to make its way into the downtown Billings area. Now, here's what we expect to see. You can see our threat board is filling up. 2 to 4 inches of snow for the Billings area out of this storm. We're still on track for 2 to 4 feet of snow in the Beartooth, and you'll see the snow amounts vary from Billings all the way across the rest of the state. But take a look at this. We'll get up to 20 degrees tomorrow, but 5 below zero for the high temperatures on Saturday. And again on Sunday, we'll warm up a little bit as we head into next Monday and Tuesday into the 9 and maybe 18 degrees. But check this out. Here's the 8 to 14-day forecast. Takes us from March 7th through the 13th, and you see that there. Below average temperatures all the way through that period. Our average temperature this time of year is about 40 degrees. We'll do well to get up into the low to mid-20s by then. We'll have more on that coming your way in a few more minutes.
All right, thanks, Bob. New details tonight surrounding the death of a Bozeman skier swept into an avalanche in the Bridger Mountains yesterday. The Gallatin Avalanche Center says the slide happened on the west side of the Bridger Range at the top of Truman Gulch. The skier, 36-year-old Peter Lazar, was solo when a couple working their way up the hill watched it all happen. Lazar was swept under the snow and downhill roughly 1,000 feet. He was found with his hand sticking out of the snow, but once dug out, could not be revived with CPR. Now, the Gallatin Avalanche Center reports that Lazar was a well-known and loved local. Crews say they are deeply saddened to report the tragic accident.
A bipartisan group of state lawmakers unveiled a compromise bill today to prevent childhood sex abuse in Montana and bring perpetrators of the abuse to justice. But some advocates for the victims say that bill still doesn't go far enough. MTN chief political reporter Mike Dennison tells us why.
The bill touted Wednesday at a Capitol News conference would allow prosecution at any time of those who sexually abuse children. instead of the current limit, which says it must happen within 20 years of the crime. But the bill only slightly expands the current time limits on when a victim of childhood sexual abuse can sue for damages. A separate bill to remove those limits entirely ran into opposition, and the compromise bill will take its place. Democratic State Representative Shane Morageau of Missoula had sponsored the original bill, but said Thursday he'll be carrying the compromise.
Ultimately, this bill, it does do a lot to protect the interests of survivors of childhood sex abuse in Montana. And while it may not be perfect, it brings Montana laws forward significantly.
Republican State Representative Bill Mercer of Billings, who opposed removing the statute of limitations entirely on civil suits, said very few states have taken that approach.
That's probably because historically, the longer you wait to get away from the conduct, the harder it is for that trial to be a search for the truth.
He noted that the compromise bill also includes stricter reporting standards on child sex abuse to make it more likely perpetrators are prosecuted when the abuse happens.
The guiding principle here is, how is it that we can have an effective response when sexual abuse occurs? Every time we have a predator that is not intercepted through an effective investigation, there is an extremely high risk that there will be another victim, and another victim, and another victim.
Yet the lead attorney for victims abused by a former Miles City athletic trainer told MTN News Thursday that leaving civil lawsuit limitations in place protects only one entity: insurance companies who covered people or institutions that let the abuse happen. John Heenan says the so-called compromise is compromising the rights of victims and that the limits should be removed. But that's not going to happen in this legislature. The compromise bill appears to have the full support of lawmakers from both parties and looks like it has a clear path through this session. At the Capitol, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
That bill, still in its draft form, will be introduced next month.
Well, almost immediately after today's changes, survivors of that alleged abuse at the hands of the longtime Miles City athletic trainer spoke out. Now, the men talked with Q2 News anonymously, but did say today's new statute of limitations proposed bill is a good first step. Although the bill does aim to improve sex abuse reporting laws for those seeking a civil suit against their abuser, the Miles City victims tell us they were hoping for a full repeal of the current civil legislation.
A Broadwater County deputy killed in the line of duty will be remembered on a section of highway outside Three Forks. Governor Steve Bullock signed House Bill 156 into law this week. US 287 and mile marker 109 will be named the Mason Moore Memorial Highway. Moore was killed in the line of duty back in May of 2017. A sign including Moore's name, title, date of passing, and badge number will be installed there at mile marker 109, where Deputy Moore lost his life. Broadwater County Sheriff Wynn Meehan tells MTN a dedication ceremony will likely happen next month.
A bill meant to pave the way for future state spending on infrastructure projects is sailing through the legislature, but Montana lawmakers say today they're still negotiating details on the spending package. The Montana House voted 100-0 for the bill designed to map out how the state spends money on building projects and other infrastructure. Now, that spending has been a point of conflict in recent sessions as a minority bloc of conservative Republicans has killed big bonding bills. Republican State Representative Eric Moore of Miles City says his bill should help avoid those battles in the future. Although not complete yet, Moore predicts the spending package will include $50 to $100 million of bonded debt. That's quite a bit less than the $160 million proposed by Governor Steve Bullock. But Democratic leaders say they are optimistic that today's vote on the planning bill is a good sign.
Came into this session saying that we need to get infrastructure accomplished. We need to have a plan moving forward. As the speaker said, I'm glad that he and I both agree on that. We see this as step one of a process to make sure that we're taking care of the people of Montana, getting people to work, putting shovels in the ground, and doing good work.
The infrastructure bonding bill for this session will likely be introduced in the next few weeks.
The future naval combat ship named after the Magic City will be commissioned in August of this year.
The USS Billings will become the 17th littoral combat ship to be delivered to the Navy and the 8th of the Freedom variant to join the fleet. Littoral combat ships are designed for anti-submarine warfare as well as surface missions. The Freedom variant are the most technologically advanced of all the littoral combat ships.
And while we know the ship will be commissioned in Key West, Florida in August, the exact date has not yet been set.
Coming up on tonight's 5:30 News, residents of Bozeman are reeling over the new name proposal for the new high school. Find out what's being done.
And in sports, high stakes for Rockies men tonight, opening the Frontier Conference tournament. Scott introduces us to their high-energy guy.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 5:30 news on Q2, Montana's news leader.